So I went to my second therapy appointment today with Winnie, my new therapist, and it was very good. It's actually very good. She was very inquisitive, and I felt a connection there. Now, is that to say the connection will be there in the future? I don't know. But this appointment today, the second appointment with her, felt good. I had an appointment with her last week, and in 2 more weeks, I will go back. I talked to her about leaving my job, and we talked a lot about gender dysphoria. And it's something I still go through a lot. I go through gender dysphoria a lot. I don't think it's something that will ever be gone, but she asked me some good questions like, do I think it's an obstacle at 50 years old to transition? And she asked me that because I told her, well, if I was 30 years old, go back just 20 years and I felt the way I do with the dysphoria, there probably wouldn't be much thought I would transition because I would feel like there's so much life ahead of me that uh, I, I was thinking I could have maybe a much better experience with so many years there. And that at 50, I just felt like, well, I live as a minimalist. I don't have the most money. I need to take hormones. And you take the hormones the rest of your life if you want the aesthetic, if you want to look as feminine as you can. And of course, if I did it, I would want to do it full on. So I was telling her that it just seemed like such an obstacle because you take the drugs the rest of your life. There's no guarantee you won't have some health complication from that. You could, maybe not, but it affects a lot. As it is now, I'm pretty healthy and don't take drugs for anything. I don't have blood pressure problems or diabetes or heart problems or any of that stuff. And I'm pretty athletic, could be more athletic. I haven't exercised as much as I want. I want to drop 10 or 15 pounds, uh, which was interesting too. When he asked me, she said, is it for just athleticism or to be more feminine? I said, well, both. Uh, I said, because even if I don't transition and I keep integrating or trying to integrate being in this male body, I said, yeah, I like the idea of looking sleek, looking more feminine, and being athletic. So I said, it's like blending the two. I said, I accept my feminine ways. I said, accept being bisexual. I said, there's a lot of acceptance I've come into. I said, the other night I got in a bubble bath and shaved my legs. I have not done that in a while, and that felt great. I don't like getting a lot of hair on my legs. I feel dirty, or my legs look dirty, I feel like, when that happens. So definitely, even integrating, there's going to be the feminine there, and mixed in, that would be mixed in with the masculine. And I just told her, I said, it's also not having a lot of money. Like, say I did want to have any cosmetics done, maybe I would want to alter my face, or who knows, maybe I would want to do things that would cost a lot of money in that respect, um, to achieve even more of a feminine look. I think I have some things that work for me, but at the same time, I just think about all of these scenarios. I think about how it would change my life, and safety concerns that women go through as well. Uh, we were talking about clothes. I said, well, I could hold on to, I could wear what I have and I would just look like a tomboyish girl, nothing wrong with that. And then add in feminine things as I go. I could do that. it's just all these scenarios I think about. And if you have gender dysphoria, if you've ever dealt with it, people have it to different degrees. It's hard for me because I don't always have it at a severe degree. I've talked about this before. You can go back a couple of videos where I have a bit more masculinity going on, but you can go back some videos and I'm very girly and full on makeup and feeling very feminine, but it fluctuates on me. That's the other aspect of all of this. It fluctuates, and there's just, my therapist agreed, there's just no definitive answer. Well, all three of them I've talked to, there's just no definitive answer. They all agree on that. Everybody has this to varying degrees, and there's just no 100% answer to say to somebody, yeah, you should definitely transition or you shouldn't. So it can be maddening going through it. So the age has been a factor to me, and I also talked about past life trauma and told her my belief in that, and that I used to do a lot of extensive meditation. And a few years ago, basically, I had past life regression happen, kind of accidental. I wasn't really trying to do it, but it happened. And I was telling her a bit about that and the woman I was, and felt like she was sexually traumatized and had experienced SA, and she had an unfulfilled life. And I feel like that's bled over to me now, but I'm not so sure that I'm meant to just transition. I think that some of us are meant to integrate. Maybe I came here in this male body in this life to experience it, but also to help solve some of the trauma from that past life, which would mean maybe for me it's not transition. Maybe it's supposed to be integration, pulling the feminine and masculine together. And so I've been kind of working on that. Now, one of the tools I use for that, and I've spoke about in a couple of videos, just not in detail, is semen retention. And the reason why I use that, well, about over 4 years ago when I started it, it was to get away from corn, get away from the adult sites, to try to stifle some of that addiction that so many men, women go through it too, but men really go through that because it's just so accessible in society. So I wanted to try it out. I wanted to see what would happen if I were to retain my semen. Is there anything actually to that? Well, it did. At first, it started reducing me from the adult sites. It started to help me to pull away from that as much and stop releasing, because I was releasing back in the day, 2019 and before, I could release 3 and 4 times a day, and it's just ridiculous. But you don't think about it when it's happening because there's so many guys doing this. They're not all going to tell you they do this. But a lot of times you can sense, especially if you start this practice and you do this practice for a while, if you retain for days and days at a time, a lot of times you can sense the guys who are addicted. That's what was happening to me in the adult store. I could sense the guys who were addicted. You could tell there's just something, well, because I've been there. But I even think women can tell. I think a lot of times women are sensitive to it as well, and they know when a guy's he's gooning, he's a gooner. He's like, they just sense it on him because of his energy, because maybe he's saying certain things to him in a creepy way, or maybe he's fidgeting constantly, or his confidence is lacking, or a whole number of things that could be going on. He could seem fake and a facade, that he's giving lines just to talk, but there's no substance there. I think women can pick up on it too, but as a man that's been through addiction like that to some degree, I can see it in other men. So it started off like that for me to pull away from that. But if you come to the present time now, I've been doing it off and on for a long time, and I've had some long streaks. Well, I mean, some people have had really, really long streaks. And let me say too, I know there's women that watch this channel, and I know you're not going to fully understand this, but I feel like I need to share this from a person with gender dysphoria. I don't think anyone ever talks about semen retention from the aspect of having gender dysphoria and attempting to do it to integrate your male and female. I always see men talking about it, but it's always a lot of them talk about typical stuff, like they're trying to get female attraction, or they're just trying to get away from the adult sites, corn addiction, that sort of thing, or they're trying to gain testosterone, they're trying to get gains in the gym, more athleticism, which all that happens. It can all happen. I've gained strength, vitality. I've gained heightened sense of awareness before. I've gained psychic awareness. I've gained the ability to meditate into very high vibrations easier. It's how I came into the past life regression that happened to me. I was retaining, and I was in nature, sitting in the grass barefoot, hands in the grass. All of this is so high vibrational. Retaining on top of that. At some point, after hours, days, and different amounts of hours of doing that, I was able to tap into all of that. It takes time, practice, effort, and energy, cultivating energy in different ways. And I wanted to see for myself, when I started this whole practice with the semen retention, was there really something to the substance? Because if you listen to mainstream society, they're going to tell you, no, it's garbage. But is it garbage out of a substance that creates life? And it stands to reason to me that something that creates life, the substance that creates life, there's something to that. It just makes sense to me. And as I kept going with this practice, and say I would do a couple of weeks, and then I was able to do a month, and I've done 100. I've been up to 100 days before, and that 100-day one I did, it might have been a couple of years ago. It was just insane. I had energy, like I could remember all of a sudden that energy. I had not had that energy since I was like 19. It was insanity, because I had forgotten what that felt like, that sort of energy, that vibrancy. I mean, I have a lot of energy, like, for my age, but I was like, whoa, I had forgotten what that felt like as a teenager. But it's such a potent energy when you retain that it's not easy to hold on to. So many things can trigger you to lose it, like falling back into corn. You might just decide one day to look at some models, or even soft stuff, or say you run an Instagram account and you just start looking at models or something on there. It can be once you start retaining, even smaller things can trigger you into relapsing or releasing it. Now you may ask, well, what's so bad about releasing it? Do you feel anything? Yeah, you do. You feel, I've done this time and time again. I've experimented with it over and over again. And when you release it, there's like, at first it's like, oh yeah, it felt great. But then not even 5 minutes later, you realize what happened, and that you lost all that potency that you had gained. Now, if you jump right back on it and start doing it again, retaining again, does it replenish quicker? Your energy, vitality, all that stuff replenish quicker? The benefits that you were gaining, do they replenish quicker? Yes. You gain knowledge, wisdom from it. You're able to rebound quicker from it. But it sucks. I've just come to realize that when you've been holding it for days, so for me right now is 41 days on this streak, and it is very potent. It is extremely potent because not long ago I had just went 56 days. Now, mind you, I laughed with my therapist about this because I said, this is part of why I think I was pushed out of the adult store, because when we're trying to better ourselves, when we're trying to defeat certain demons per se in our life, we're trying to achieve a higher standard for ourselves. We want to do better in some areas of our life. Those addictive qualities about ourselves are going to try to creep their way back up. I do think there's entities out there that can interfere with us, that don't have our best interest at heart, that know our weaknesses, that can interfere. Or you could just say negative energies if you want to. If you want to look at it as polarity, positive and negative energy. That negative energy or entities wants to creep back up into your life, and it can come in a variety of ways. So here I am working in an adult store now. I have to go through and rearrange stuff. I have to go through the DVD section and look at hundreds of movies with nudity and all kinds of stuff. And I've had the addiction before with the corn in the past. So here I am doing all this, and I'm working in this environment and I'm retaining. So think about it from a spiritual perspective, and spiritual and religion are two different things. I'm not religious, but I do believe in reincarnation. I believe in past lives. I believe we're connected to the source, or we can be if we cultivate that energy. And you call that God if you want to. I don't look at it like an invisible man in the sky who's trying to punish us, not like that. But I believe we can connect to that source, which is very, very high vibrational. And to do all that, and you're, say, working like I was in an adult store, you're going to be challenged even more, and people will react to you differently. That's why I think everything started to flip on its head there with the energy and the timeline shift. It just happened where when I started there a year ago, my boss was super nice, super friendly to me, and was like that for a long time. He got on great with me. I was experimenting with my gender dysphoria there. I was wearing makeup sometimes. I wore some nail polish. I would wear perfume. I did different things there because I was seriously at that time, really seriously thinking of just going ahead and transitioning. And things were just different when I started there. Well, over time, this happens with a lot of things in our lives. There's a shift. And if you start working on yourself more, and you start working on your trauma, and you start working on your energy and cultivating your energy to be in a higher vibration or a higher frequency, the things that have to fall out of your life, there'll be things fall out of your life. This has happened with me with people. It's happened with me with friends. It's caused me to have more friction with my stepdad because I've been able to see the things he's addicted to, or, well, I know a couple of things I know at least he's been addicted to gambling, but it's like I have this suspicion that he's probably been addicted to other things. Can't really prove that, but it's like I can see in him what I see in other people. I can see things that I hadn't really intuitively. There's an intuition I pick up on with him, and I pick up with other people that's just something not right with some things. And as you work on yourself, work on your own energy, work on your own trauma, a lot of things come to the surface, and you have more intuition. about other people, who you should be talking to more, or who you should be friends with. Are there people you need to cut out of your life? Are there people you're being people pleasers to? And I'm not telling you it's easy. None of this stuff's easy. I mean, I still struggle with depression, and I still struggle with my gender dysphoria and all of this stuff. And I get worrisome sometimes because right now I'm not working. I left that job. But the point is, I left the job because, okay, here I am practicing semen retention in an adult store. You talk about an energy contradiction there. And a lot of men can't even get on this journey at all to even attempt it, or they do it a few days and they fall off because it's so hard to get out of the lust of wanting to just release. So the energy just turned on me there, and it turned on me because I'm trying to better myself, and I'm pretty much I could feel intuitively it was time to move on from there because it had already served its purpose. I'm more comfortable in myself. I've accepted my bisexuality. I've accepted that I can be very feminine sometimes. I've accepted these things about myself. I'm a continual work in progress, but there's a lot of things I've accepted since I've worked there. And I also didn't like the fact, because of working on myself, that I'm sitting there enabling other men that I can clearly see are addicted, and I'm helping sell them things that are dissociating themselves from their body and making them continually be in a cycle of releasing. And they may not even understand that that's not good for them, but I just know from my own past, it keeps you in a cycle, a dissociative cycle a lot of the times, and you get tired and you don't feel like doing other things. You can stay depressed more often. You can fall into other habits. You can fall into drinking, fall into an alcohol habit or a drug habit or anything like that easier. And I'm not saying it's bad to have a drink or whatever. It's just you can fall easier into addictive habits or overeating or things like that. So I didn't like the idea that I'm selling things that I know some of these guys are probably miserable. You can see it on them and see it reflecting off of them, even if they don't really admit it to themselves. And then we sold other substances too that I can't even believe we sold them, because I know some of the stuff we sold is completely harmful in every way to a person. I'm not going to mention exactly what that is on here because YouTube probably wouldn't like that. But if you've been in shops like that, you might could guess at what such things are. So anyway, because my energy rose higher and higher, it conflicted, I believe, with the lower energy of my manager. And then he hired this very low energy guy, young guy, who, when I met him, clearly, I've told this story in a couple of videos now, so I won't go back into that. You can watch my last video. I talk about this more, and then a couple of videos back as well. But this guy was so low vibrational, such a fake facade. I could see it immediately. So hyper masculine, it was sickening, honestly, and that he was that fake. But because of that, I could see through him immediately. And when somebody like him can tell you can see right through them, there's going to be some conflict. And he did not like me at all from the beginning because I challenged him, not in a mean way or anything. I just didn't buy into any of his bullshit from the beginning. I saw right through him immediately. So, and some of that's because of my past, again, being also someone who used to be hypermasculine, who repressed my feminine, who repressed a lot of things about myself, who didn't admit a lot of things to myself. So I would cover that all up with hypermasculinity and with trying to be the typical guy, as so many men think they have to be. So that caused huge problems. The boss seemed totally head over heels for this guy. It seemed like he was attracted to him, which to me was disturbing, that he would give me so much hostility because I missed one day of work in a year, had some of the highest sales in the 3 stores we had. Sometimes I beat out 3 stores in our region. My commissions were very high. I was very dependable. So this guy he hired had no track record of anything. He didn't know him from nothing. But his attitude and his hostility toward me, and his hostility toward 2 other women there, caused us all 3. Well, we all 3 decided to quit because of this one guy. Pretty much. I mean, the one girl, I don't know if it was totally that, but she had mentioned that she had some issues with him. The other one, I know it was all that. And then me. And so he lost all of us, and he was just left with him and the guy running this place. It's mind-boggling to me. And I think he was attracted to him, and that shows you, though, how low vibrational a person can be. Truly, especially in a management role, when you will ride or die with somebody like that, not knowing them from anything, and lose the rest of your staff. So there were a number of things there because of, I feel like, raising my own energy, that when you do that, there will be haters and there will be people come at you all of a sudden that are in those lower vibrations that you used to be in, or you were closer to their vibration. And when you raise yours up, all of a sudden there's conflict and issues. It's like they can feel you're no longer on that level where they were at. And now you've been working on yourself, climbing. It's not that you're better than them. It's just that you've been working on your own energy levels, and you've been trying to better your own self and your own life. So, semen retention, I was telling my therapist, I didn't go into as much detail as I am here, but I was telling her, I said, I've been holding, it's a practice I've done for a long time off and on, but I feel like the longer I hold my energy like that, the more I can integrate my masculine, feminine traits. And I noticed the last time, well, here's the weird thing. I haven't actually released semen in well over a year. Well, maybe about a year and close to a month. But I've edged. This is something else I discovered that will still affect you, is edging. If you do a lot of edging. And the reason is because when I would do that, I would still be watching models, or I would still be watching content at times doing this. And when you do that, my belief is you're feeding into their energy fields. Whenever the content was made that you're watching, there's an energy there with that person, their soul, the vibration they're at, and you're feeding in, mixing in with the frequency. And that's going to mess with you. So there's levels to this whole thing. Like, you could be edging to your imagination, which isn't as much of a drain on you as it is when you're watching another person, or you're feeding into their energy. And then you're feeding into their energy, and it's draining you more because you're feeding their frequency. So it can get very complex, and you could ask here too, how do I know this? It's just from trial and error of going through this cycle multiple times and knowing the energy subtleties, the energy drains I have went through. Now, would it have been worse if I had released at any of those times? Yeah, and there was a couple of times I almost did, but I didn't. And if I had totally released in the last year, I would have been drained a lot more, and it would have taken me more to climb up out of that. But what I learned over time is it was better to hold in from releasing and just try to get away from the edging. It's like climbing up a mountain in levels with this thing. So I thought, well, it's a big accomplishment that I've held on from releasing in over a year. The edging, though, would still drain me because not only are you feeding into energy fields, but you're also you're still producing seminal fluid. So a man, for any of the ladies that might be watching, if you're interested in this, the men produce the seminal fluid that's different than the actual semen itself, but there's still substance in that. So you're still getting a drain off, not as much as you would if you released everything, just totally released, but you still cause yourself some loss when you're watching porn and doing that, or feeding into watching models or anything like that, or IG girls or men or whatever you're into. You're feeding into that energy field. So I've been trying not to do that. Now, do I ever still fall into it? Yeah, but in this last 41 days, I haven't edged. The only thing that's happened to me, and this is another unique thing about something I can talk about doing semen retention, I have not heard other men talk about. For one, like I said, a man that goes through gender dysphoria and often feels female or very feminine, practicing this, but also through all the deep meditations I used to do, I learned how to generate the energy up through my body into like a orgasmic experience, until like being able to produce it up into my heart center and through my body to where I don't release. And I can do this through meditation. I can do this when I've retained, like now, as long as I have on this streak, 41 days, I'm at a level now where my psychic awareness is up, and when I meditate, I can quickly tap into a super high vibration that it's hard to explain. A lot of this is hard to explain unless you experience it for yourself, or you practice any of this for yourself and experiment for yourself. You can't just go listen to, especially guys who try to tell you it's BS, and they can't even attempt it for a day or 2 days or whatever. You can't listen to that crap, or listen, well, to low vibrational women or men talk about this when if they're totally caught up in addictions themselves and they're not trying to do anything to change it. I mean, how can you trust a source like that? Or you're going to hear things about there's the study done some years ago where they said you should let the semen go every 21 days. You should let it go 21 days of the month because it's good for the prostate. But if you practice this for any length of time, I think it's the opposite myself. Now, can I prove any of this? No, it's anecdotal, but that's why I say you have to try it for yourself. I actually think it's more damaging myself to the prostate to be constantly putting pressure on it, releasing like that, and to be constantly having it's producing that seminal fluid constantly when you're doing that. And it's contracting if you do release. And if you release a lot, it's always contracting. And it's always producing more and more. So I actually think it's doing more harm. And you're not getting any other benefits that I know exist because I've felt them, because I've done this for a long time now, off and on. And I've not even went past the 100-day mark before. And I can't imagine what could come from that. But now I can, when I get higher up in this energy field, I can just simply meditate, and I can go into such a high vibration that it puts me kind of in a trance-like state, and it don't take long, and it just activates my sexual center. Some people call it the sacral chakra, and it moves right up into my heart center, and it's like an explosion goes through my body, and it's incredible. And I'm not thinking of nobody when this happens. That's, I guess, what I'm saying. I'm not thinking of anybody. I'm just concentrated on source energy. Light is the best way I can describe it, and it's very light and high vibrational energy that will flood my body and produce this orgasmic rush. This is something I have not heard anyone talk about. And the reason probably being is any man I hear talk about semen retention, they're not talking about it from a gender dysphoric and feminine aspect, where they probably wouldn't even want to, they might not even have the capacity, even though they're getting all the other benefits, they might not even have the capacity to be able to tap into it the way I do, because it's my feminine, I feel like, that taps into that. It's my feminine part of me that taps into that through meditation, that produces that rush through my body like that. And I embrace it because I often feel very feminine, and I accept it, and I'm very forthright with it. So because I accept myself for who I am, I just let that flood through me like that. But I have to be careful when I do that, even though it's just meditation and I'm not focused on anybody or any imaginative person or anything. It's still, if I let that ride through too much, at some point it could still cause me to release. But I guess what I'm saying is some people might say, well, isn't that edging? I guess in a way it could be, but it's very pure. That's what I would say to it. It's a very pure way to let off some excess to take off a little excess at the top of that energy. And it's just very pure type of feeling. So I just wanted to give my perspective on that, because I just haven't heard anyone talk about it. So anyway, right now I'm in the unknown. I'm just in the unknown, and a lot of people would find the unknown scary, like just leaving a job, but I was going to go back in there, and that energy was just getting darker and darker and darker by the day. This guy showed a potential for violence, and it just wasn't worth it anymore. And I'm not sure what I'm doing next. I would love to get into a creative field because I'm creative, and love to get back into some form of public speaking that was fun, or acting, or arts, the arts somehow. But until then, I get on here and talk to you all, and maybe I should pick up my guitar again. I have thought about getting my guitar on here, and thought about putting some makeup on again, but I just haven't had the energy. But sometimes I want to play around with my makeup again. But thought about getting the guitar back out. And I'd be rusty though. I'd be really rusty. But I thought about maybe trying to do something with that. You know, I put a lot of shorts on here, and maybe do a short with playing. I don't know. So I'm just trying to take things now day to day. I almost contemplated going to another adult store. I'm like, why would I do that? I just got out of there for a reason, for quite a few reasons now. So and again, I'm not going to say I'm not susceptible to going back and looking at models or edging or any of that. I am definitely susceptible. And I'm not perfect even on this journey, this streak. I haven't edged like touching, but I have looked at models a few times, just looked at them and then said, okay, stop doing that. None of us are perfect. I mean, I have attractions to people. just like any of us do. But I'm just trying, I love that high energy. That's what it is. I love cultivating the energy because I know the differences. I know the subtleties of it. I know what it's like to totally lose it. I know what it's, once you know that and you see it for what it is, you can't unsee it. You could stop doing it. You could go back to a low vibration, but you're never going to forget what you felt and what you've experienced. Uh, and it's something I can't explain. For men watching, I can only say you'd have to try it. If you try to come on here and tell me it don't work, I I know it does. I know what I've experienced, but you have to do things on your own. You have to experience for your own. But as far as jobs, I would probably just try to do something else that doesn't drain my energy real bad. I'll probably work a 4-day week maybe like I did before because it gives me a good balance. I think energy is currency. If you cultivate the right energy, you should be able to cultivate other things. And that's what I'm working on. And like I said, I'm not perfect. I am a work in progress. I still go through depressive spirals. I'm still contemplating transition. That hasn't went away completely. It may not. I may still do it. I mean, we talked a lot about my gender dysphoria today, and I like the questions she asked. She really probed on me in a good way to make me again think, okay, is it worth me doing it now at 50? Or can I integrate this successfully? And is that the better route? It gave me more to think on. So, anyway, I guess I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.